evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news tonight out of Sandusky, Ohio, where Winter Chillout has just concluded, and we have a whole litany of changes coming to the park for the 2018 season. Now, Waterparker, you were actually at the event this weekend, so you got a first-hand view of Winter Chillout, walking through the park, being able to experience it during the off-season. But you were also there to hear some of these changes. Why don't we start with the food changes? Because, dude, there are a ton of food changes coming to the park next year. What were some of the highlights for you that you saw?
Well, Andy, first off, thanks very much for having me on the show. But there's a lot of new experiences to check out at Cedar Point in 2018. Along with Steel Vengeance, the Frontier Trail is getting a facelift with their food options. More explicitly, for our Cedar Point fans out there, Chick-fil-A is returning to its original location in Frontier Trail. I know a lot of people in the presentation were very excited to hear that. And for me personally, I love Chick-fil-A, so I'm very excited for that to come back. As well, not to mention the fact they're bringing a lot of barbecue flavors into their food and the meal deals. Although I will admit, Andy, the original Famous Dave's is being closed down in Frontier Trail. From what I understand, the one on the marina is still going to stay open.
Yeah.
However, the one in Frontier Trail is being, taken out. It's going to be instead replaced with a new barbecue area. So I think it's pretty cool to see some of the new food options coming to Cedar Point in 2018, Andy, and I'm very excited to go check it out. Well,
and there's a lot of interesting moves here. I think the first one is Chick-fil-A coming back, like you said, that when we saw Frontier Inn come back, a few seasons ago, a lot of people were like, oh, Chick-fil-A's gone. Chick-fil-A presents a lot of problems for the park, specifically not being open on Sundays. That when people back there are looking for food options, they would want to go to Chick-fil-A. It was closed, especially during the fall seasons when all the food places are open. But I think what's going to happen now is even with Chick-fil-A being closed on Sundays, they're going to have a lot more options for people to eat back there, because before there were a few good places, but most of the stuff was hamburgers, cheeseburgers, that kind of thing. A lot of the same. They would have 3 different stands that would have the same thing. So now you're going to have more options, and I think especially more towards Maverick and Steel Vengeance, you're going to have a lot of these upscale options. So I seem to like what they're doing here with the food. I, for one, love Chick-fil-A, and especially if they put it on the meal deal plan, I'll probably be going there quite a few times. But throughout the park, we don't see a lot of other changes going on. I think the biggest change was adding some Coke refresh stations, some freestyle machines. And then the big thing they were selling to us was the cotton candy experience over by the Skyride and Scrambler. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I really didn't understand what they were talking about there with that.
Yeah, so when you go to a theme park, you always experience the cotton candy rush. Everyone's talking about blueberry or raspberry or strawberry. They sold it to us in the presentation that this is going to be a cotton candy emporium to where you can go and get any kind of flavor. I believe that there's going to be about 12 flavors. The exact flavors were not stated. However, it sounds like you're going to be able to mix and match your cotton candy flavors. So maybe if you like one flavor with another flavor, and not many people like that, you get it for your own, maybe box it up and take it back home. I think it's a really cool idea, Andy, because it makes Cedar Point different for, a myriad of reasons, from their food, from their resorts. This will definitely put Cedar Point on the map, not just the cheese on a stick, but also multicolored, multi-flavored cotton candy.
Now, obviously, the main event of this whole event was, going to get to see Steel Vengeance. I've been on the Steel Vengeance tour a few times already. Once, when it was almost completely built, back in August, and then once again for the Ride Warrior Club winter party, we got a full tour of it when it was, pretty much done at that point with track work at least. So what did you guys experience on this tour, and maybe give us an update on where Steel Vengeance is at this time?
Yeah, so we first got a little bit of an interview and presentation by the foreman of the Steel Vengeance construction. He was talking a bit about what exactly was going on, where they're at on construction. We did get to go on the walk back into the main infield, which, Andy, I've never been on a tour of the main infield of Steel Vengeance. And, buddy, it's beautiful.
Isn't it? It's a great looking ride.
When I first walked
for an
in,
RMC at least.
well, exactly. But, when I first walked in, I thought to myself, holy cow, this is freaking amazing. You've got the 3, sets of tracks coming over you as you walk on in. You're looking around, and it's just circling all around you. It felt very reminiscent for me of going and seeing Main Street, the big, giant, towering structure. And I think this is going to be definitely a very photogenic coaster from around the park, because you can see it from practically everywhere. You can see it from off the peninsula. You can see it in the infield. Overall, a very great tour. I enjoyed it. Got some great videos, some great photos. And if you didn't go, I'll admit, I think that you missed a lot, because it was very beautiful under the February, stormy skies. Very amazing, Andy.
Well, we also found out that it is going to have a new lighting package on it. They said it was not going to be multicolored, thank God, because you can only have so many multicolored lighting packages. I'm assuming that they're going to switch out, like they had those massive floodlights underneath Main Street that would give it that orange tint to it at night. I'm thinking they're going to switch those out for maybe some LED structure or fixtures, and hopefully, they said it's going to all be one color. Maybe they might do some flashing with it. I don't know what's going to go on, but Mean Streak, I always said the reason why Mean Streak stood for so long was because it was so beautiful at night. So hopefully this ride maintains that beauty and really gives that half, because Maverick doesn't have a whole lot of lighting at all. So hopefully it gives that back half of the park a real eye catcher back there that it will maintain that. The other thing we learned is that Luminosity, some people loved it, some people hated it. Luminosity is officially gone, and what we're getting is a hybrid show of both Luminosity and All Wheels Extreme. It won't be just one time at night too. So that whole concept of the final show is gone. This is now going to be playing throughout the day, which I think is actually a really good move, because part of my problem with Luminosity was by only having the one show at the end of the night, that stage wasn't being used for most of the daytime. You saw a few Snoopy characters go up there and do a show, but for the most part, during Hollow Weekends it was used for a Skeleton Crew. But I think now they might start exploring some real options with that area. And I think this Vertical Impact show might be a very good replacement, and something that might even be a lot better than Luminosity. So, and then Iron Dragon was the topic of concern as well, that we heard that Iron Dragon will be keeping the VR, similar to the same schedule as last season. But also, a lot of people pointed out on Twitter and Facebook that Iron Dragon was getting some significant track work done. That right over the lagoon there, a lot of people noticed real quick that part of the rails were gone, hopefully for new fabrication to make that part a little bit smoother. And what that says to me, Waterparker, is that a lot of people were speculating that they would pull Iron Dragon out and maybe put something else in that spot. But now that they're doing track work on it, like physical, replacing rail, that says to me that this ride's going to be there for a while, which I'm all in favor of, by the way.
Yeah, and something I don't think a lot of people were actually commenting on was the fact that they ripped out all those trees next to the lagoon.
Okay.
So, you get a better view of Iron Dragon. We're getting a lot of this work. In fact, when I was in the presentation, someone brought up there's duct tape, on the track itself, and bits and pieces. But, for me, Andy, this shows that they're taking good care of their coasters. Cedar Point loves their coasters, loves their attractions. I always say that Cedar Point is an Aero classic. You've got Gemini, you've got Iron Dragon, you've got Corkscrew. I mean, those are three major...
Hold on, you forgot the biggest one.
I don't know what you're talking about, Andy.
You forgot Magnum, which is
probably 200.
Probably the best Aero ever.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, but and again, Magnum XL200, that's something a lot of people have been talking about, whether or not if that's going to be staying over the next few years, A lot of people have been saying, yeah, I'd love for this to stay. A lot of people are saying, I'd rather see something else go in its place.
Yeah, I hope that never happens personally, but
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. I guess the last two big pieces of information here, one of them is that Maverick is getting its theming back. It is getting the lights back in the second launch tunnel, and they also say that the fog should be coming back as well. That we know the first few seasons. You know what, Waterparker, you might not even have been alive to see the theming on Maverick.
Hey, I've been around for a while, Andy. I might have not been to Cedar Point until about a couple seasons ago, but I was alive back then, buddy.
Okay, so you might have been alive. You might not have been tall enough to get on the actual ride. So a lot of our listeners here probably have no idea what this even looks like. Like, it was only open for, a handful of seasons. The ride's only about 10 years old. So it probably half the time, this theming was on. So this is going to be a new experience for a lot of riders this year. With its strobe lights, flashing lights, colored lights, fog. I always thought it was pretty cool. So I'm really excited to see it come back. And hopefully they keep it up this time. So that was one of the other big pieces of news. And maybe the one piece of news that I think has been understated from pretty much everyone is the fact that there are 0 plans right now that are announced for the old Oceana Stadium. It's going to be an open piece of land for this year, which I think a lot of people were surprised by that, because when people first tore this down, everyone was saying, well, no, they're going to make this beach entrance. They're going to do this, and whatever. They're going to have that beach walkway there. They're going to turn the old parasailing, stand into a beach bar. But Waterparker, I think this opens up. You've heard me say this a while on previous updates. I think this really opens up the possibility for 2020, and this being where the wood coaster on the beach is going. I'm going to keep holding to this theory, because you look at the lineup at Cedar Point. What is the one thing that they are significantly missing? It is a wood coaster, and I think that's exactly where it's going to go. I think now that people have seen how much land is actually there, the question is, does Wicked Twister stay? Does Tiki Twirl stay? These are all questions, but those are questions that are easily answered, in the next few seasons. And I think that this is setting us up for the 2020 coaster. It's a wood coaster on the beach, and it fits with everything we've heard so far around Cedar Fair as well. So what are your thoughts on that?
I've always been the fan of the classic, 20s style beachfront atmosphere, and when I went to Cedar Point, the first time several seasons ago, walking into Hotel Breakers, I felt like I was back in the 20s. And I feel like that's where Cedar Fair is trying to go with Cedar Point, is that they're trying to bring it into this blend of where they came from back in the 20s. They had their original, small, what was it? The little small wooden coaster on the beach.
Well, it wasn't that small. It was Cyclone, and it was a fairly large coaster, and I think that that's exactly what they're going to try and recreate. I wouldn't even be surprised if they don't call it Cyclone, to the Cedar Point Cyclone, obviously for marketing reasons. Or maybe they could come up with something, the Lake Erie Cyclone or something more, fancy. But I think that's what they're trying to do, is this wood coaster. And now, obviously, it's not in this exact spot. It was further down the beach, probably. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here. Maybe not you, but the listeners. It's my impression that it was more down towards the beach, towards like where Gatekeeper, the end of Wicked Twister, is. I'm not quite sure from the pictures. But I'm pretty sure that that's where it was, somewhere, or maybe it was even on the other side of the island. I don't know. But you get the idea. It was a wood coaster on the beach, and I think that that's what they're going to try and do again here. So, like you said that, well, also they're going to try and do more beach-themed stuff as well. So they're going to have some stuff going on out there. They're going to have the boardwalk. They're going to change the front store to a beach theme, which I think is interesting because it's not really near the beach.
So the way that they portrayed it is like, how it's the modern, fresh Cedar Point feel.
Yeah.
You know, it has a little bit of that blend of being beachy, you know, with the way that the signage made. It's called the Point Plaza, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners. Comment down below. But, you know, it's supposed to be revitalized, refreshed. I mean, when we were there, Andy, it looked like it was a blast from the past. It was from, you know, the 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
It looked like something that just needed to be refreshed, updated, exactly what Cedar Fair is doing with 2018. So I'm really excited to see what's going on.
Well, and I think if you've ever been to the Hotel Breaker store, that actually has kind of a beach feel to it. So I wonder if they're going to try and replicate that. Obviously, the Hotel Breaker store, a little bit more upscale. Maybe they'll try and do something like that over in the park to make it look nicer. But it was very dated before, so hopefully we see something brand new. So you know, an awesome time, I would say overall. It looked like everyone was having fun. People had some great pictures to come out of it. We got some nice tidbits of information. Still no opening date for Steel Vengeance, though. It sounds like that they're going to start testing towards the end of what did they say?
I think that they're starting tests at the end of March or April.
Yeah.
So I think that they are going to open it up with the park.
Yeah. So because there's been some speculation as to when exactly Steel Vengeance was going to open. If it's going to open on that preview weekend, if it's going to open sometime at the end of April. I think if it starts testing at the end of March, you're probably going to have about 2 weeks of testing, and then it really opens up, you know, when it could open for pass holders and stuff. Also, there was some confusion. Some people were saying that there would be no first rider auction. It sounds as if there will be no first rider auction for a select group of people. You know, in the past, we've seen with rides like Shoot the Rapids, I was a part of that, with Maverick and Dragster, and that they had auctions for specific seats. It sounds like what they're going to do is going to be more in line with what they did with Rougarou and Valraven, where it's a first rider event. It's a charity event where you buy a ticket to the event and you line up and you ride whenever you want. So there's no actual first rider. Hey, I'm the first rider on it. You know, I'm paying thousands of dollars to do so, which I think is cool. I've attended both the Rougarou event and the Valraven event, and if they did one for Steel Vengeance, I would plan to be there as well, because I know you did the water slide event this year.
Yep, the Cedar Point Shores charity event. And just for the listeners out there, you know, if you've never done a charity event, definitely go check it out. You know, they treat you well. They give you some great food. They let you go ride the slides or the rides, depending on charity events. So, yeah, go and check it out, you know.
So, as always, we will keep you updated here on all the developments here on the off-season. We're really looking forward to getting there out to Steel Vengeance to ride that bad boy, to see how that thing actually turns out, and if it's the wildest ride in the West. Maybe it's stealing that title from its neighbor over there. Who knows? So, as always, I am, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm the Waterparker from Cincinnati.
And as always, ride on, Ride Warriors.
Stay tropical.